Have you heard about the Houston Safari Club Foundation? They're a nonprofit organization that provides annual scholarships to college students, hunting and fishing trips, and outdoor education programs for hundreds of students each year. And they fund conservation projects at home and abroad to protect habitat and wildlife. A community of hunters and people passionate about the outdoors. Monthly events, an annual convention, member benefits, and so much more. Whether you hunt quail in South Texas or big game around the world, this is the place for you. Become a member today. Go to WeHuntWeGive.org to learn more. WeHuntWeGive.org.
Tradition, conservation, family, the outdoors. It matters to you. It matters to us. This is Hunting Matters. Presented by Houston Safari Club Foundation. Here's Joe Betar.
Good morning. Welcome to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Betar.
I am Ramon Robles.
What is happening, Ramon?
My wife drove 700 miles one way this past weekend to pick up a dog.
Really?
And so all week it's been, no, down.
Puppy?
Yes, it was a Bernie Doodle.
Really?
Yeah. And we named it Wyatt Earp because he has a little mustache, and the breeder said you should give it a strong Texas name. So I came up with Wyatt Earp. However, the dog keeps yapping, yap, because it's a puppy. My boy July says we shouldn't name it Wyatt Earp. We should name it Quiet Earp.
Oh,
so the dog's name is now Quiet Earp.
I'm glad to see that your kids have inherited your sense
I know
of humor.
it. I couldn't believe it. He's 5 years old. And
Quiet Earp.
Honest to God story. His name is now Quiet Earp.
Nice.
It was going to be, what was the other one somebody said? Quiet Wyatt was another one.
Yeah.
As, a little play on
Quiet
the 80s
Riot.
band.
Yeah.
But Quiet Earp stuck.
I like that. I like both. I like Wyatt or Quiet. That's cool.
He's a cool dog, but I just wasn't ready. We have two older dogs.
Yeah.
I love them. I'm going to cry when they go away.
Yeah.
But they were close. They're about, inside 2 years before they go meet their Heavenly Father, their Creator.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward to, hey, now we don't have this to worry about. You know, we can go on vacations
right.
and
because they're like another kid.
Yes. And now we brought in a new fur baby, as they call it.
Ramon working on the doggy succession plan here. It may extend the life of your older dogs. We found anytime we introduce a puppy, it kind of kicks them back in. They're like, hey, I remember when I was a kid. And then you catch the dogs hiding in the corner, and they're telling secrets. And they're like, well, when I was a young pup, I used to do this. And Ramon loves it or hates it when you do this. So.
And they train the they train the puppy too. They're like, no, you can't do that. We go out here to do that.
Yes.
Anyway, so that's been my week.
Cool. Yeah, I was out in Missoula, Montana for a couple of days.
How was the weather?
It was hot.
Really?
But it wasn't as humid, of course, as Houston. It was hot. It was starting to cool off a little bit at night, down to 56, 55, but still, hitting 90 during the day. Sure. But they're having a real problem with forest fires out there, as they do. They had a big drought. They didn't have a lot of snow, so they didn't have the melt off they usually have this year.
Oh
wow. So water's become an issue, drought conditions, and they're really having. I think we had yesterday when I left for the airport. It was there was a new one that popped up 20 miles away from Missoula, so you couldn't see hardly anything. It was crazy.
Are those an annual thing like out in California, or is this?
Yeah, it tends to be. Just depends on where. There's wildfires all over the country, but it seems like the ones in California get the most press.
Yes,
because they're near
major,
populated areas and things like that. So, but it's a real issue, and we actually talked about we were there for policy meetings. We were talking about the fact that the federal government needs to step up in the various departments and fund. Through the infrastructure package that they're working on now, needs to start funding these programs to cut underbrush, undergrowth, and manage these forest fires comprehensively. But unfortunately, some states like California and other places, they even though they get approval and get the money to do it, they don't do it.
What?
They're like, oh, we don't want to. We don't want to harm the golden cheek micro warbler or whatever it may be. And but if you think about it, it's common sense in my mind. Either burn down thousands and thousands of acres and habitat for animals and kill the animals, or you cut the underbrush and get them to get displaced for a while. So anyway, hey, trivia question today.
Okay, here we go.
What is the oldest commercial American self-contained metallic cartridge around, having been in production for over 160 years? I gave you an easy one this year.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know?
No, because
what's the first bullet that you would introduce your kids to shooting?
Oh, 22.
22.
Is that true?
Yeah.
22?
Yep.
I thought it was going to be like the 44 or something.
And if I'm wrong, I hope our guest doesn't call me out on it.
He might. He very well. He sounds
I think
very
I'm
smart.
right. I think I'm right. That's what Wikipedia says anyway. No, I'm just kidding.
Our guest does sound smart, even though he's not an engineer.
Right, right. Hey, folks, today we are joined by Eric Miller. Eric, and I hope I get this right, the Centerfire Rifle and Component Product Manager for Federal and Speer Ammunition. Eric, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you.
Did I get that right? Is that
you
time?
Did? Yep.
Man, your business card must be the size of an iPad.
It's a small font, so it all fits.
There you go. There you go.
I would have been. I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't take that opportunity to go, no, this is Eric Miller from Domino's Pizza. I was calling about, because you sounded like you weren't sure we got the right Eric Miller on.
Yeah, there's only one Eric Miller in my mind. He's the guy behind the bullets. So, Eric, thanks so much for joining us on Hunting Matters this week. Houston Safari Club Foundation actually just started working with you guys this year, so we're really learning about the product line, and we're going to talk about various aspects of the ammunition industry and that sort of thing. But I always like to start the show off with learning more personally about people. So, what's your personal story? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in southern Minnesota. Rochester, Minnesota specifically, and I think really started hunting with my dad, fishing with my dad. That was kind of our connection, as a teenager and growing up to those times. And then it was something that we always shared together. And then when I went to college, went down the wildlife management route, and just because of my passion for the outdoors, and that actually led into kind of my career into the outdoor industry as a whole. And that's how I ended up here with Federal. Okay.
What did you do? What were some of your roles prior to Federal?
I worked for retail. I was with Gander Mountain for a long time, both at the store level and then as a buyer, and then transitioned into on the corporate side, manufacturing side with Birchwood Casey, Liberty Safe, and then Federal Ammunition. Okay.
And what was it other than your upbringing and your passion for the outdoors? Was it did you kind of fall into this, or was this something you're like, okay, I'm going to get in the outdoor industry?
No, I kind of fell into it. Right after college, I was in the Peace Corps for a couple of years, lived in Africa, and then when I came back, wanted to do something just as soon as I got back. So I started part-time working behind the gun counter, and that is how I started in the industry. It was just so you're right. I fell into it and then just kind of kept growing with myself and with the companies that I was working for, and it just turned into my career.
That's cool. Yeah, where there's few of us who are blessed to combine our passion for what our favorite hobbies and pastimes and our passion projects are, and combine that with our career. So it sounds like you've done a masterful job of doing that. And you work with both the Federal and the Speer ammunition product line, correct?
Correct. Yep. So Vista Outdoors owns Federal Ammunition, Speer, and CCI, and within Speer, out in Lewiston, Idaho, is where our factory is for Speer, and so that's the connection on the rifle and the component bullet side.
Awesome. Okay, guys, we're going to dig into that a little bit further here on the other side of the break. We're here today joined by our guest, Eric Miller, the Centerfire Rifle and Component Product Manager for Federal and Speer Ammunition. Join us on the other side on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.
The Houston Safari Club Foundation Worldwide Hunting Expo and Convention at the George R. Brown Convention Center, February 4th through the 6th, 2022. Hunting and fishing outfitters from around the world. Gear, firearms, optics, taxidermy, and more. Banquets, auctions, raffles, and entertainment. $10 at the door. Children 12 and under and active military with ID get in free. Proceeds support youth education, scholarships, conservation, and hunters' rights. Sponsored by Gunworks, Forlow, Capital Farm Credit, Wildlife Partners, and Boyd's Hardwood Gun Stocks. Go to WeHuntWeGive.org to learn more.
Miller, for those of you just joining us, Eric is the Centerfire Rifle and Component Product Manager for Federal and Speer Ammunition. Good morning, Eric. Thanks again for joining us. Something piqued my curiosity. You mentioned before we went to the break, you had done work in the Peace Corps. How did that happen? How did that come to be?
It was something that I had thought about. Actually, in junior high school, we had somebody come and speak to our class, which kind of planted the seed. And then as I was in school for wildlife management, was the opportunity that I had to do it, and realized that would be a perfect time after I graduated school. So applied, was accepted, and served about 2.5 years in Uganda, working in a national park, developing ecotourism for the park. So great experience, probably one of the best experiences of my lifetime. just from the aspect of being able to travel, see East Africa, experience just a completely different world, essentially. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, I'm sure it gave you a different outlook on the world and what you were comfortable with compared to the situation in Uganda. Were you ever in any hairy situations down there?
A little bit, yeah. We the taxi I was in was held up, not because obviously I was in it. It was just so happened, and had some great experiences traveling through Kenya and Tanzania. Went and saw the gorillas in Uganda. Got to go into Rwanda a little bit. It was just overall just a different world. Great experience. Makes you appreciate everything that we have here in the United States and kind of some of the things that you take for granted when you come back.
Sure.
But overall, just a fantastic time, and was very fulfilling, and I learned and grew a lot from it.
That sounds incredible. Sounds like an incredible experience. I've talked to a few of the people who have done a couple of years of service in Peace Corps or various other capacities, and they just come back and their whole perspective of everything changes. So that's great that you got to experience that. So fast forward to now, you're the Centerfire Rifle and Component Product Manager for Federal and Speer. Tell us about that. What do you do on a daily basis? What's part of your job?
So the best definition, I think, is really the bridge between marketing and the engineering. So as product manager, we're looking at assortments. We're talking to the consumers when possible, obviously talking to our sales team and our sales force, kind of look at the market and come up with new product. Federal is very adamant that new product is our lifeblood, and so we are always trying to innovate for new product in rifle and handgun and shotgun and rimfire and all of the categories that fall underneath Federal and Speer, now Remington, heavy shot. So we are always focusing on innovation, and that is a big part of what we do. And then in the other hand, you are looking at your current assortments, kind of past orders, working with the plant on what to produce as much as we can. That makes sense for what's on open order, looking at kind of the future, if we need to sunset a product, replacing it with something new, and just kind of looking at new calibers, new bullets, working with the engineers on what they are innovating and how we're going to bring that to market and where it really fits within the market for us.
So you guys look at trends in consumer buying as well as I'm guessing some of your biggest frontline customers are the gun shops and the retailers and that sort of thing. So do you guys sit down and look at all those factors whenever you're planning whether you're going to sunset an item or whether you're going to produce it? And I want to talk a little bit later about the challenges that it's been to get ammo out there this year. But what's involved in that process? How do you guys look at those trends to be able to determine what you're going to need to ramp up to produce or back off on production?
A lot of it is with the current demand, looking at what we have and where we're at with raw materials, bullets, brass, powder, what we always want to maintain, especially at least for my lane and rifle, we always want to maintain that premium rifle to standard target to gold medal, kind of within all of the lines that Federal has. We don't want to just focus on one specific because maybe it just has the biggest open order. Everything within that is really important to us. So we focus very hard on producing premium ammo, our hunting ammo, gold, like I said, gold medal, American Eagle, and we try to balance that all with seasonality, availability of raw materials, and just kind of where the market is going. And it's a daily. We're doing it all the time. It's not monthly or weekly. It's a daily process that we go through, and we're always trying to talk with the sales team. We're getting information back from them. We're getting information from the plant, and then when we're able to, whether it be the NRA show or any kind of consumer show, talking to the consumer, getting firsthand knowledge and kind of their opinions and what they're thinking is all really important to us.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of moving parts. I mean, like you said, I don't see how you can, you can't just put a formula into place. I know that you guys have protocols and trends and procedures that you use and implement, but I'm guessing, especially now, it's a constantly, pardon the pun, but it's a constantly moving target.
It is, and Federal and Remington, Heavy Shot have all done a great job with the current demand getting product out, and that has been the big focus and will continue to be the focus. I can't say enough for how much they've done to produce as much ammo as we can and produce the right ammo based on seasonality or demand.
And so for the folks that are listening that don't have, insider information or are not familiar with the industry, the question that I get asked constantly is, I can't find this, I can't find that. Why is ammunition not available? So would you mind telling our listeners, from your viewpoint, you mentioned a few of them already, but encapsulate it for them so they'll understand why ammunition is difficult to get at times.
Well, even just since essentially the pandemic started, and there are 10 million new shooters, and if you just think of you're adding 10 million new shooters to the market, or if that number is a little bit more or a little bit less, and that group is purchasing ammunition, plus just the run on ammunition that was happening as we were going through the pandemic, as there was civil unrest. You take all of that, and you can't necessarily go and buy a loader off the shelf. We were running, and it's not a flip the switch and just produce more. We run 24/7, and like I said, all of the plants have done a fantastic job through all of this, getting as much ammo out as they can, and always producing to a high standard and a high quality. The demand is outpacing kind of the reaction time and what we can do to get up, but they are doing everything they can, and we're getting out as much ammo as we can, within the confines of our four walls, whether that be here at Federal or Heavy Shot or Remington, doing everything that we can to satisfy the market.
Do you guys have I mean, day to day you forget, well, there's raw materials and there's people, and if you can't run an assembly line or you can't run a factory because everybody's been asked to space, et cetera, during a pandemic, I mean, all those things fall into play. And I don't think people, the everyday average consumer doesn't understand. They're like, why can't I get 223? Why can't I get this? Why can't I get that? And, so that it's good that you explain that, pointed out, because there's so much more behind it than just products just not available because they're not making enough. So, all right, folks, we're here today with Eric Miller. Eric's the Centerfire Rifle and Component Product Manager for Federal and Speer Ammunition. We're going to take a quick break here on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950 and see you on the other side. Folks, welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Bitar.
I am Ramon Robles.
And Ramon, what do you think so far about our guests? You learned a lot?
So far, I feel bad because I was ready to curse him out about the ammo supply shortage.
Yeah.
And then, the cool, calm, and collective as he is, he explained what was going on. And now I feel like I'm a jerk.
Eric, what do you think? I think you ought to come over here and just take Ramon down and just be done with it.
It would be a long trip down, but it might be well worth it.
Hey, we'll come down next month, and you can join us for opening day. We're doing a big dove hunt on opening day in September.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah. You bring the ammo.
That's right, because we can't find any. No. Oh, folks, we're joined on Hunting Matters today by Eric Miller. Eric is the Centerfire Rifle and Component Product Manager for Federal and Speer Ammunition. And like you said, Ramon, before we went into the last break, he was explaining the whys and ifs and hows of, ammunition shortage. And I appreciate you doing that, Eric, because I don't think a lot of people understand how many moving parts there are involved with that. I'm curious, and I know we could talk about this for 2 hours, but can you kind of give our listeners an overview as what's involved in the product development process for ammunition, for new products? Is it demand? Is it something you got stumbled on? Is it the engineers? They come up with something really cool. Can you kind of give us an abbreviated version of how that process happens?
Yeah, there's a lot of parts to it, like you said, but it's if we're looking at a new product, and I'm going to focus on rifle, but we just came out with a new bullet, terminal ascent bullet, and it was really answering a question of we wanted a long range, match grade hunting bullet. And if you pose that question to the engineers, being the geniuses that they are, they're going to figure that out. So in that specific instance, they came back and we basically, with terminal ascent, created a match grade hunting bullet that has great terminal performance, essentially at the end of its velocity range, terminal range. So at distance, you're still getting upset, you're still getting energy transfer. And we were just improving on trophy bonded tip, which was in our line, just kind of improving on what we already improve on, and those guys are doing that all of the time. Whether it's making a bullet, giving it a higher BC, better terminal performance, even things like lower cost. Can we make a equally as good bullet and be able to offer it at a lower price? They're always looking at avenues and trying to kind of innovate, and we get a lot of that information from our sales team. We get a lot of that information from the consumer. If it's a new caliber, whether we design it or somebody else comes up with a new caliber, we want to obviously have bullets for it. And so the engineers are always trying to develop the best bullet for whether it be 6.5 PRC or if they are trying to think of something for 270 and trying to make a better bullet for a hunting application or a target application and making it heavier, again, going back to the higher BC. They're looking at that all the time. And so we're always trying to have new product in our stable that we can look at. Obviously, with the current demand where it's at, we are looking at that, but we're really trying to also look in the same breath, look at what can we do to get more ammo out. We're still innovating. We're still having all of that development done, but part of their job when they go out to the floor is how can we up our production rate? How can we make it better? Always looking at that always changing environment. So they're constantly kind of reviewing and going forward with all of whether it be development or production efficiency. It's something that we're looking at all the time.
Yeah, and you hit on a couple of points there that I want to clarify. So when you say BC, you mean ballistic coefficient?
Yes, ballistic coefficient.
Right. And the other question I had was when you're talking match grade long range, I mean, when you're talking about match grade ammunition and shooting at long range, what do you consider long range? How many yards?
Well, and that a lot of that actually depends on the shooter. For a lot of people, it's 100 yards is normal, and then 300 yards would be long range. If you're out west, that's 600 yards or 800 yards or 1,000 yards. If you can practice at that distance and you know your rifle, you know your optics, you know all the environmental variables when you're hunting, that long range is kind of depending on you and depending on your location, whether you're out in the east, in the Midwest, or the west. But when we looked at terminal ascent, long range for us, 300, 400, 500, the bullet will perform on a 300 Win Mag you would have terminal performance out to 1,200 yards. We are not suggesting that, you can just pull a rifle up and shoot 1,200 yards. Sure. But the bullet is fully capable of having terminal performance at the end of that. And it depends on the caliber. 6.5 is probably about 800 yards just in that specific instance. So it's very caliber specific. But long range, I think, is a little different for everybody. But for the most part, if you practice and you shoot and your rifle is accurate, the bullet will perform at those distances for you.
Right. That's impressive. I mean, it's amazing to see what's changed over the past 25 years as far as ammunition and bullets go. And I was just curious, what is your favorite go-to hunting round for big game?
300 Win Mag, and I have been shooting the terminal ascent in 200 grain. I was on a caribou hunt last fall with two buddies, and that is what I brought and have had a lot of success with it. It's just a very accurate bullet. I haven't shot particularly far with it, 300-400 yards, but every time has been the terminal performance has been fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you guys? I was curious. Do you guys have pro staffers? I mean, when you put these hands in, put this ammunition when you're testing and running trials, and do you put this in the hands of your professional staff? Who goes out and does the testing for you?
The engineers do a lot of the testing. We are able to do some of the testing, but we do have social ambassadors that do a lot of testing for us, and we do test all of the product. We do a lot of it internal. In the downstairs in the firing lane, in gel block, and then get it out into actual conditions to see how it's going to perform. So we run the gamut of who gets to test it and do a lot of testing before we're launching a product to the consumer.
Let's say there was, a couple of dudes on the radio who wanted to be social testers.
Social ambassadors.
Oh, yeah, ambassadors. How would they get involved in that process?
It is a really stringent application process, but we could work through that.
That's a nice way of telling you you don't
Pound
stand a
sand,
chance.
kid. Yeah.
Call us back next year.
You're so nice. Worth a shot.
Oh, man. And I know every situation varies, but from concept to on the shelf, what's the length of time that a new product will be in the development pipeline?
Oh, it's very variable. It's variable.
Yeah.
It could be 2 years. It could be 3 years. Some products are 6 years. It really is dependent on, is it a new bullet, similar to terminal ascent, or is it a new cartridge? Then we have to work with firearms manufacturers and go through that process. So there's a lot of variables in the time frame. Some of them are really short, but a lot of them can be fairly extensive and take a lot of energy and time on the side of the engineers to get it to market.
Do you guys typically roll all the new stuff out at SHOT Show every year?
No, we roll it out at different times, just depending on the shows, whether it be a consumer show or some type of retail or distributor show. It's a little dependent. It's not necessarily always at SHOT. Sometimes we might do it at NRA show. Other times, if the product's ready and it's built, we could launch it, whenever that time frame is, whether it be the spring or the fall. We try to have our stable of new products and release them all at once. But we're not set on saying it's always going to be at SHOT or always going to be November 1st. That's a fairly fluid timeline.
Yeah. So Ramon's got young boys coming up here, and he's trying to get them in the outdoors and shooting and everything, fishing, everything, hunting. So Ramon, how old are your boys?
5 and 3.
So, kids that are between the ages of 5 and 10, do you have any recommendations for calibers that are friendly and inviting for them to go out and kind of get started shooting with, other than the 22 obviously, but do you guys do some work with kids and youth rounds?
We do, and I think a lot of it is everybody starts with a 22 long rifle. It's just kind of a natural progression, and then kind of work their way up. But there are so many calibers that are out there that are shooter friendly, and recoil for you and I is one thing, but recoil for someone that's of a smaller stature, 10 years old, it's a lot different. So we may not think of a lot of a 243, but for them, that's a lot. But that's kind of, I would say, the natural progression would be 22 long rifle. You could do a 223 and then up to a 243 and just kind of work up so that it's always a pleasant experience for them to shoot, and just kind of take the steps up so that they're comfortable and they understand what they're doing and why, and good mechanics of shooting. It's always a progression and works pretty well if you follow through with that.
Right, yeah, and I think that's one of the keys, especially with kids or introducing new adults that are new to hunting and shooting sports, is to do something that's comfortable and enjoyable and all those things. So you're spot on there. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. We'll be right back with our last segment. Folks, welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Betar.
I am Ramon Robles. What do you think of the song here?
This song?
Do you like it?
I've never heard this song before.
Oh, come on.
No.
You're being funny.
What is it? You don't even know the title.
I can't remember.
Can you tell me when it was produced? Hey, there's a corner over there. Just go ahead and continue to back yourself into it. Folks, we're here today. Our guest is Eric Miller. Eric is the Centerfire Rifle and Component Product Manager for Federal and Speer Ammunition. Eric, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you have definitely educated both of us today, more so Ramon than me.
True.
No, I'm just kidding. We've talked about a variety of different subjects, and I want to bring up the point again. I mean, obviously people are frustrated with ammo shortages, and it's, from the consumer side, it's a shortage. From your side, you guys are doing everything you can to knock it out of the park and get this thing resolved, whether it's demand or it's raw materials or staffing or ramping up factories and production lines, that sort of thing. So, if you could break out your magic 8-ball or your crystal ball and tell us when this thing's going to be resolved. Do you think things will kind of get back to normal as far as supply goes in the next year, 18 months, 2 years? What are you guys seeing?
It's hard to look,
Sure.
obviously, into the future, but I would, as we're going through, Vista Outdoor bought Remington, and, there was a lot of hired a lot of people back, getting the machinery up and running, production started. That coupled with just the ability of our plants to continue to be very efficient and produce as much as they can, I wouldn't want to put a time frame on it because there are so many variables that could happen. It's getting better, and like I said, we are doing everything we can, and I couldn't stress enough how all of the plants have been doing a great job, just being efficient and trying to get out. They're all passionate about what they do. They care deeply about the product, and I think it shows in a lot of what we do. So they're doing everything that they can, and we'll just keep kind of working through it as we go.
I think the takeaway that Ramon and I want to impress upon our listeners of this show is, guys, they're not sitting around,
right,
holding out.
Right.
I've heard people say, "Oh, they're just holding out." No, they're not. I mean, Eric, you guys are obviously doing everything you can at every stage of production to get the stuff out there, and I'm sure it's as frustrating because you guys are all hunters and shooters as well. I'm sure it's equally frustrating for you not to be able to just crank out as much as you can all the time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we want to have as much hunting ammo as we can for hunting season. We want to have all of the gold medal that we can for target, for PRS shooters. We are obviously not holding anything back. And again, just trying to help the market and get as much out there as we can. It's a battle.
Here in Houston, we have a creamery called Bluebell Ice Cream. They make Bluebell ice cream, and they eat all they can and they sell the rest. Is what they say.
That's their motto.
That's their motto. Do y'all shoot all you can and then just whatever y'all got left? Or like, all right, send that out.
Not even close.
Okay.
No,
I wouldn't be mad.
It would go out the door first before I would ever get my hands on it.
Now, when production's running normal and quote unquote normal times, do y'all get an allotment as employees?
No, we don't get an allotment, but we're able to purchase. But obviously, with the current market, that's not something that we're doing now. And again, we're shipping it out the door first, and honestly, it's the right. We come second to that.
Oh yeah, right.
And it's just it's a unique position to be in, and it's a great. I pinch myself sometimes just the position that I have and thinking of what I do, but we are very invested in the consumer and trying to get whatever we can out to them.
Makes sense.
Ramon, I think it's time you ask him your favorite firearm question.
What is the closest weapon to you, and what is it?
6.5 Creedmoor, and it's about 4 feet away.
Nice.
That'll do it.
6.5 Creedmoor just sounds cool.
Yeah, just sounds nasty.
What are you shooting this week? I got a 6.5 Creedmoor. Yeah. Just sounds cool. I don't know who came up with that name, but they were
probably
right
Mr. Creedmoor.
John Creedmoor?
Yeah.
Wide Earp Creedmoor? Oh, man. Okay, well, listen, Eric, you guys are doing a great job. I know you're doing everything you can to fill the shelves, and I just want people to understand that it's a daily battle, but you guys are doing everything possible over at Federal and Speer. And we like to end the show with some fun questions. So just curious. I know you talked about hunting in the Midwest. Before we go to the questions, real quick, you talked about you grew up hunting in the Midwest in Minnesota, but you've also hunted abroad, right? What's your if you could pick one or two of your favorite hunts and locations, what would those be?
I think I've got a couple. I've done a few DIY moose hunts with a buddy, and then I also went with my dad. Those are probably some of the most memorable. To this day, I think the best meal I ever ate was after the first moose pack out, 1 a.m, getting back to the tent and eating a bag of turkey tetrazzini and basically passing out with my boots on the cot is probably the most memorable.
Yeah.
And then, like I said earlier, I did go on a caribou hunt with 2 buddies last fall. That was just a great time from start to finish. So it's a great state. Love hunting. Yeah, go back any chance I can get for sure.
Was the caribou hunt a DIY drop-in?
It was. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yep. Just outside of Kotzebue. It was a great time.
Yeah, that's just a once in a lifetime thing. I tell you, that's an awesome hunt. And you and Ramon have something in common. Eric's got a new puppy he's been working with.
Oh, okay, very cool. What the kind?
British Lab. So he just turned a year old.
Nice. When we got a name for him?
Murphy.
Okay, that'll
Murphy.
do. It's not.
So I've done some of the training, and then I've had the kennel at Riverstone where I picked him up from. They've done some of the training also, just because they are far better at it than I am.
So you're training for waterfowl retrieval or
upland? Yeah,
okay.
primarily pheasant and grouse. Yeah.
Sweet. We don't have a lot of grouse here, and not much pheasant unless you go to the Panhandle. But I love to watch those dogs work, man. They're incredible.
Yep. Smart dogs.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up here with a few lightning round questions, if you don't mind. Dealing with those, Eric.
Sounds good.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Master of the obvious.
Ooh!
Wow!
It's like listen, I didn't tell him these beforehand.
What?
Master of the obvious. Okay.
Could you explain that?
Yeah. Please explain yourself.
Obviously.
Just to be the master of whatever is obvious in front of you. Just better common sense and to not miss a thing.
Eric's my new hero.
Wow.
Just that. If anybody can top that answer.
Ironically, that superpower was hard to comprehend.
It wasn't obvious, was it, Ramon? Yeah. Obviously, you're not master of the obvious like Eric is.
Good for you.
Oh, nice answer. All right, Eric, what's your spirit animal?
Ooh. Let's say grizzly bear.
Because of the sheer terror that it can.
Just the impressiveness of them.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple. I saw one on a sheep hunt, and he was over the top of the mountain in about 30 seconds. They're just overall impressive.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly they can come to the sound of a gunshot, too.
Yeah.
We had that issue in Alaska. What's your weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse?
5.56.
5.56.
AR.
Did you hear what Ramon said? I think he muttered.
No.
I think he muttered rookie.
I said rookie. I take my zombie apocalypse as very serious. And anybody who says ammunition during an apocalypse is just asking for trouble because you're going to run out. Even if you have 10,000 rounds that you can magically carry around with you.
What's your choice, Ramon?
It's going to be a blunt object.
Oh, okay.
A bat, a machete.
Well, that's the backup. You shoot till the rounds are gone.
Well, you can only take one is the question, Mr. Bitar.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, I said weapon of choice. I didn't say weapon of choice. I didn't say if you could only have one weapon. I said weapon of choice. Doesn't mean you can't have a backup because any well-prepared zombie hunter is going to have more than one weapon. So, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten, Eric?
Ooh, would be grasshoppers and ants in Africa.
Oh, nice. Love a good grasshopper.
And they were fantastic, yeah.
They actually can be good if you prepare them right.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, we really appreciate you joining us today, folks. We've been with Eric Miller, the Centerfire Rifle and Component Product Manager for Federal and Speer Ammunition, and we are done.
That's it?
Yeah, we're done, man. So we will see you guys next week on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950 with Ramon and Joe.
The interest is up and the stock market's down, and you're only getting mugged if you go downtown.